Good evening and welcome to CHIP's annual Candidates Night. My name is Juanita Senkis. I'm the president of CHIP. I'd like to welcome everyone here, and especially to our mayor, Jack Bradley, who's sitting here in the audience. Welcome. We're going to start with an opening prayer by Alicia Pardon.
Heavenly Father, we praise you for the gift of community. Thank you for the communities in which we work and live. Thank you for the community that is your body, the church. Fill us with your spirit today so that as one we reflect on your light and love to each other and to the world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
If you can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would like to thank Joe Bach, who's here tonight, again, with our cameraman out there. And the moderators for tonight, of course, is Carmen Libas, Mike Fidel, and Alicia Pardon. And we are going to start with our Jeff Young, who's the 911 director for Issue 7 Levy Renewal.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation tonight. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I want to talk to you a little bit about Issue 7. It's a renewal levy for your county's 911 system. I want to emphasize one thing before we start. The system is yours. You're the taxpayers. It serves you, and I want you to think of it as it's your system. It's not my system. I have the pleasure of working there, but I work for you, and we want to make it as good and reliable as we possibly can if for any reason you may need it. My obvious hope is that you never do need it. It's good to know that it's there when you need it, but I hope you don't. Obviously, this will cost no new taxes. It's a renewal levy. It's 0.5 mils, which translates to $11.67 for $100,000 of property value, which translates to 97 cents a month. It would generate approximately $3.5 million and would go for 5 years. This operates a system with approximately 40 employees, and we answer every 911 call that comes into Lorain County. That amounts to around 800,000 calls a year. So it's a pretty busy place. It answers all the burglar alarms, fire alarms, and medical alarms in Lorain County. Once they show up in our center, then dispatchers have the task of getting the resources on the scene to help anybody that might be having an emergency. It could be something catastrophic, or it could be somebody just needs help getting up if they've fallen down. We take care of everything. Once the call is received, it goes from the call taker to the dispatchers. We have fire dispatchers, we have EMS dispatchers, and we have police dispatchers working at 911. The calls are routed to those agencies that need to come out and help whoever needs help. And then we stay on the phone with the person that calls, and we provide pre-arrival instructions, which could amount to anything from calming people down, talking them through the emergency so they stay safe, to giving first aid instructions. It can be as easy as telling people not to move until help gets there. We teach CPR over the phone. We've delivered babies over the phone. We do bleeding control. We try to keep people calm and help them through the experience and help the person that's in trouble. So everybody works together until the first responders get on the scene and makes it as good an outcome as possible. The 911 center is very technical. It's very IT driven. It's all computers and programs and servers, and it takes a team to work there. Beyond the people that actually answer the phone and do all the dispatching, there are technical people on staff there that specialize in IT, consulting for all the programs that we have, consulting for the radio systems that we have to maintain. We have the ability from that center to talk to every single police, fire, or ambulance in Lorain County, all the different frequencies on all the different radio systems. It's a very complex place, and it's very complicated, and you have to do a lot of planning to make sure you do things right. I believe that the best way to manage anything is not to manage during a crisis. If this were to pass, it'll let us continue knowing what kind of funding we have coming in for the next 5 years so that we can plan for the future, anticipate what we're going to need in the future, and then be able to budget for it. The worst way that government can work is to manage by crisis, because you're making quick decisions, they're not sound, and quite frankly, they're wasting money. I believe that a system that works within a budget that knows what's going to be happening in the next 5 years can be managed in a much better way and make it better for everybody in Lorain County. So that's my philosophy. The bottom line is we go to work there every day. We want to do the best job we can for everybody in Lorain County. But we also want to make sure that the center and the system, which is huge, has to be as reliable and redundant as possible. We work every day at the management level to make sure that that place stays up and running so that if somebody does have to call for help, we're there for them. It's, like I said, it's very complicated. We have to deal with all the different telephone companies, the internet services that have to coordinate all that stuff together. Like I said, we love doing it. It's a great job. But the best way for us to do it for you is to know what our budget's going to be for the next 5 years and be able to plan and do this intelligently. So we would appreciate your support in the renewal levy number 7 for the 911 system in November. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff Young, 911 Director, Issue 7, Levy Renewal. Our next renewal is Issue 8 Levy Renewal for Criminal Justice, Major Donald Barker.
Hello, my name is Don Barker. I am a major with the Lorain County Sheriff's Office and the commander of the Lorain County Drug Task Force. I am here to ask for your support in Issue 8. It's a Criminal Justice Service Levy. It is a 0.08 mil renewable levy. It's not a new tax. It's a renewable one that we've had since 2013. The levy is earmarked to support the Lorain County Drug Task Force, and for those that don't know, the Lorain County Drug Task Force has jurisdiction in the entire county. Just a little history: in 1982, a permanent tax was created. That was the MEG levy. Some of you may remember that. This levy is still in place, and it is not increased in any mills. In 2013, it was determined that the Lorain County Drug Task Force could not effectively function with the proceeds from the MEG levy. So at that time, the criminal justice levy was introduced, it was put on the ballot, and it was passed. Issue 8, the criminal justice service levy, it's a 5-year renewable levy. It's set at 0.80 mils. This equates to $1.87 per $100,000 property value. This is a levy solely for the Lorain County Drug Task Force, and it has not changed since its inception. The levy, if passed, if renewed, would bring in approximately $566,000. That, accompanied with the MEG levy, would give the Lorain County Drug Task Force approximately $985,000. The current budget for the Lorain County Drug Task Force is just over $1 million. Over the past 30 years, the Lorain County Drug Task Force, we've applied for grants that come available. We received the Ohio Drug Law Enforcement Fund, the DLEF. When that was first funded or founded, there was 26 drug task forces. That was in 2009. Currently, there are 43 drug task forces in the state of Ohio. When it originally created, the grant brought in $5 million. Currently, it brings in about $2.3 million. So those funds are diminishing. And when we filled out the grant, we requested $333,000. We were actually able to acquire $97,000. They had a $32,000 matching fund, which had to come out of drug task force monies. So they say that we got $130,000, but 90 of it came from the state. We also applied for the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, also known as the JAG grant. We asked for $105,000 in that, and we were awarded $65,000, $40,000 less. Both of these grants are diminishing, and we use these to fund our operations. One of the other things that we do is we deal with overdoses. We know in Lorain County, last year there was 147 overdose deaths. They went from age from 15 to 65 plus. The geography of those overdoses are basically through the entire county. There is no one area that has, there's areas that have more, but there's also areas with a higher population than some other areas, but every area has been touched. So with that, we started applying for Recovery Ohio grants, which we did receive, and the Ohio Comprehensive Opioid Stimulant and Substance Abuse Grant. We received both of those, and they allow us to reach out doing public access, reaching out to the public, and also doing the QRT, which is the Quick Response Team. That is to respond to overdoses, not necessarily deaths, but overdoses, to try to get somebody off of recovery services. One of the things we also established in 2016 was we became a HIDA. That is a high-intensity drug trafficking area. Now, what that means is we have significant drug issues in Lorain County, and I know since I've been at the Drug Task Force the last 3 years, we have been involved in investigations that were directly related to cartels from South America. In those, one of the investigations, we recovered 24 kilos of cocaine. Another one was over $100,000 and cash was seized. And recently we did a search warrant in Lorraine where there were multiple kilos of cocaine, fentanyl, and a bunch of pills recovered. But while we work on those major cases, we also do small cases. A gram dealer, a half-gram dealer, because those are quality of life issues. So we certainly follow up on those. I ask for your cooperation. I show you my appreciation, and if you would support issue 8, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Donald Barker. Issue 8, levy renewal for criminal justice. Our next person up here is Mark Johnson. Issue 9, levy renewal, mental health and addiction services.
Thank you. Thank you for providing me with this opportunity to talk with you about issue 9. My name is Mark Johnson. I'm Chief of Behavioral Health with the Mental Health Addiction and Recovery Services Board of Lorain County. As a county board, we are responsible for ensuring that the behavioral health needs for the residents of our county are met. And we support the work of more than 24 agencies through funding and through collaboration to ensure a system of care that's comprehensive. And we provide oversight to ensure the stewardship of these funds. What is issue 9? Issue 9 is a renewal. This means that it is not a tax increase. We combine these dollars with state and federal funds to pay for services and programs that have no other source of payment. Last year, for example, we were able to ensure 16,000 Lorraine residents received the treatment and recovery supports needed that were not covered by insurance or Medicaid or Medicare and were otherwise unaffordable. Of that number, 24% were children. We are able to support prevention programs and early intervention and provide support to school systems. We provide training to clinicians, to law enforcement officers, and to community members to recognize and best respond to persons with mental health or substance use disorders. Why is this important? Well, especially now in the wake of the pandemic and on top of the opioid crisis, it's more and more evident that mental health and substance use disorders are very, very real. Those in need of treatment should be able to have access to it without barriers that put that help out of reach. In 2020, there were 44 deaths by suicide in Lorain County. Yet we know that 9 out of 10 deaths are preventable if people have access to treatment. We know that emergency rooms and EMS and law enforcement have enough to do without responding to mental health and substance use crises to their duties. We are working closely with hospitals and law enforcement to divert more and more people to treatment to reduce this burden. Important is addressing disparities in care, as we know that cultural sensitivity and increasing the number of providers that actually look like the people that they are serving is critical to people of color, just as having bilingual providers is critical to someone whose first language is not English. So let me review the facts. Issue 9 won't raise taxes. At 0.6 mils, it costs less than $1.75 per month, or just $1.75 per month, or just $21 per year for someone with a property value of $100,000. Issue 9 continues to support the providers of critical crisis services, prevention, treatment, and recovery services for adults, children, and their families across the county. Issue 9 supports the recovery of your neighbors to lead more self-sufficient and productive lives. Please join your neighbors and your community in voting for Issue 9 on November 8th and through your early ballot, which started October 12th. I thank you for your support to Renew 9.
Thank you to Mark Johnson, Issue 9 Levy Renewal, Mental Health and Addiction Services. And our final Issue 10 Levy Renewal is Tracy Green, the Vice President of Lorain County Community College.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to address the residents of Lorain County on the importance of Lorain County Community College's Issue 10 on the November 8th ballot. As was shared, that Issue 10 is a renewal that will not increase taxes. It is for a 10-year period, and that if passed on November 8th, will not be a tax increase for 20 years. This issue was last updated in 2013, and as a 10-year renewal on the November 8th ballot, it will be in place until 2033. So we ask for your support to consider voting for Issue 10 on November 8th. In order to share the facts with you, I'm going to cover 3 aspects: the history of this issue, the impact of this issue, as well as the importance and need of this issue going forward. First, on the history of this issue. This levy was established in 1995 and has been in place for 25 years. It was last updated in 2013. The reason the issue was established was a change in the economic and workforce needs of our community, recognizing a need for expanded skilled workforce in Lorain County to compete with other regions across our community. The community came together to create this issue, which does 3 things. This established the University Partnership Program, recognizing that Lorain County had the highest percentage of associate degree holders of any community across Northeast Ohio. But at bachelor's degrees and master's degrees, we were last in the region. And Lorain County Community College is the only public college in Lorain County, and Lorain County does not have a public 4-year university. The second reason it was established was to expand the job preparation, and third was educational services. And that was really recognized because of the changing economy. The impact of these 3 areas of this issue can really be quantified First, looking at the University Partnership Program, it's had a 77% increase in bachelor's degree attainment and now offers 15 colleges and universities delivering 100 bachelor's and master's degree programs on our campus. I do encourage you to please visit vote4lccc.com for the other facts regarding issue 10. This keeps Lorain County Community College working for our community, keeps our residents with the educational services that they need, as well as keeps our economy and workforce strong. Thank you in advance for your support.
Thank you, Tracy Green, Vice President, Lorain County Community College, for issue 10 levy renewal. Yeah, I'm turning it over to the moderators now.
Okay, welcome everybody. Just so you know, as part of the races, every time that we do one of these, we only mention whether we support the levy if we support all the levies that are on the sheet. And this year, just so you're aware, all of the levies on the agenda, all of the 4 levies that were discussed today, the CHIP organization is endorsing all 4 of them, and we're happy to do so. Okay, we're going to move now into 9 races, 9 contested races, and we're going to begin with the judge for the Court of Common Pleas. So when we come back, we'll be asking those individual candidates questions and hoping that you'll get to know them better.
Veterans benefits earned through your service in the National Guard or Reserve can offer a range of support.
I wouldn't be here today as a successful woman without the help that I received.
From home loans to job training, go to benefits.va.gov/Guard Reserve to find out more, even how to apply online using e-benefits.
This is one of the best things I ever did in my life. We were very fortunate to have these benefits, so we definitely ought to use them.
Achieve your next mission. Learn about your VA benefits today.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're here with covering our first race. It is for Judge of the Court of Common Pleas. The 2 candidates running for that office are well known in our community. It is Darryl Bilancini and Melissa Kobasher. Welcome to you both. Each of the candidates in all of the races will receive an opening statement, 3 questions, and a closing statement. They will have 1 minute to respond to each of those. So we will begin with an opening statement by Mr. Bilancini.
Good evening. I'm Judge Darryl Bilancini. I'm born and raised in Lorain, Ohio, and I came from a family of 10 children. I'm married to my wife of 43 years, Cindy Kirshner, who was also born and raised in Lorain, and is a retired registered nurse who worked in the emergency room at Lorain Community Hospital. Cindy and I are proud parents of 3 adult and fully employed children. We're also proud graduates of Lorain Catholic High School. I've had some connection with the city. I worked for the Lorain City Street Department, worked at U.S. Steel where I would work in the Coke plant, and worked in the law director's office during law school. I've had a 34-year career as a trial lawyer, representing clients in over 100 jury trials. I've been elected 3 times to the Avon Lake Municipal Court, serving as their judge for the past 17 years, where I've presided over many jury trials. I'm asking you to elect me to be the next judge of the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas, and that's the court where felony criminal cases are resolved by jury trials. Thank you.
Ms. Kobasher, your opening statement, please.
Good evening. My name is Magistrate Melissa Kobasher. I am running to be the next judge of the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas General Division. I grew up here in Lorain County, in the southern part of the county, and I now proudly reside here in the city of Lorain with my family. I am passionate about the law and our community, and that is what has drove me to run for judge. I would like you to know a little bit about my experience. As I do not have the years of experience as my opponent, I definitely have the relevant experience. I was a prosecutor, a criminal defense attorney, and I represented individuals and families here in Lorain County for a number of years before becoming a magistrate. I'm a magistrate currently in the General Division. That is the same court where I am running to be judge. I believe that I have the relevant and direct experience that would allow for a seamless transition to the next judge in that seat. So at the end of tonight, I'm going to ask that you please vote for me for the Common Pleas Court.
Okay, Ms. Kobasher, we're going to begin our questions now, and we will begin with you. Violent crime, particularly youth violence, is perceived to be a crisis at a crisis level by many experts today. What, if any, do you believe is the appropriate role for the judiciary in addressing this perceived crisis?
Okay, so first I would like to start with the Common Pleas Court is the court where we handle adult felony criminal cases. And so while we're talking about youth in this question, I would like to tailor that to the fact that we oftentimes have young adults that are coming before our court. I believe that it is appropriate for a judge to be engaged in the community and aware of the issues that are impacting their community, such as violent crime. We've seen unfortunate cases in both Elyria and Lorain with young adults who are involved in very violent crimes and drugs. I am somebody who's passionately involved in our community. I'm engaged as a board member with the Lorain County Urban League. I've also done services with the Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and I know that it's important for me, if elected, to remain a part of the positions in the community while maintaining a fair and unbiased position in the court.
Thank you. Mr. Belancini, same question.
I've recently communicated with the Common Pleas judges on some of these issues, and they are extremely concerned about gun violence, especially in the younger offenders. It is at crisis level, and apparently it's getting worse. The first line of defense is obviously law enforcement, but prior to that, it's the family, schools, the teachers. They all play a role in combating this problem. Ultimately, the case is going to come before the court, whether it's juvenile court or whether it's the adult court. It's a problem that, again, in talking to the judges there, is getting worse, and they're really concerned about it. It's something that I will deal with when I take the bench by involving all the parties that need to be involved, whether, again, it's the police, the family, the teachers, to try to resolve the issues. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the second question, Mr. Belancini, we'll start with you. What is the role of a judge in ensuring that certified or qualified interpreters are available to applicable defendants in court cases? As a judge, how will you ensure that Rule 88 of the Ohio Supreme Court, Ohio Revised Code 2311.14, is complied within your court?
Right. In my current position, again, the Avon Lake Municipal Court, where I've been for 17 years, we deal with a lot of people who require interpreters. The Supreme Court does a terrific job in giving us the tools. Initially, we are able to go on the phone. We have a speakerphone in the courtroom. We immediately dial a number which puts us in contact with a resource that allows us to give them the kind of interpreter we need, and they come on the line within seconds. It's really incredible. And we can use that service to deal with the case as it sits that day. It's usually a surprise when we realize that this person needs an interpreter. Typically, we take a not guilty plea, and then we contact an interpreter to come in live, and that's required. It's also a service that's provided by the Ohio Supreme Court. Unfortunately, it's also a bill that's going to be paid by the funding authority. In our case, it's the Avon Lake City, but in the county ultimately has to pay. So we are in a position in Ohio to have a great resource provided by the Supreme Court that I think takes care of most situations where an interpreter is required.
Thank you. Ms. Kobasher, the same question.
So the judge has the ultimate role in ensuring that individuals that come before the court are able to have interpreters should they have some sort of barrier that forbids them from having proper communication in the court. In my experience in the Common Pleas Court as a magistrate, I have worked with the certified court interpreter that the court has history of having on staff. Unfortunately, Ms. Hernandez has taken another position and is only part-time. So in my experience, I've had to have an opportunity where I've needed to ensure that she is scheduled ahead of time. In the event that we are not able to have someone in the building for a hearing that would require her services more immediately, we do use the services that the Supreme Court has provided, as Judge Bilancini had spoke about. But ultimately, it is the judge's role to make sure that all the proceedings are being understood by the participants.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the third question, we'll start with you, Ms. Kobasher. Please describe one instance in which you faced an ethical dilemma and how you resolved it.
So one of my current roles is that I am an investigator and member of the Legal Grievance and Ethics Committee. That is the committee that oversees our Lorraine bar in making sure that they are representing their clients within the ethical codes provided for by the Supreme Court. Recently, I had an opportunity to testify before the Disciplinary Council as a witness because I had an attorney who continued to practice law despite the fact that he had been suspended. So it is the role of the court to make sure that the attorneys are practicing ethically, and in doing so, I had to make sure that that person was no longer practicing. That is an experience that I think I have uniquely, and I will continue to serve on the ethics board should I be elected judge.
Thank you. Mr. Bilancini, the same question.
Yeah, the one that I come up with is a situation that is similar to what Ms. Kobasher has described. It involved an attorney. He was charged with domestic violence. His wife was pregnant, and he punched her in the nose and broke her nose, and she walked in with her nose out of position for the arraignment. I learned fairly quickly that this attorney had a history of some violence. Although he was intelligent, he was actually a very good attorney, but he had drug, alcohol, and mental health issues. The ethical problem had to do with reporting it to the Supreme Court and getting the Ohio Lawyer Assistance Program involved. The Ohio Lawyer Assistance Program is an excellent program that the Supreme Court provides for attorneys who have alcohol, drug, and mental health problems. I called the gentleman who was in charge of OLAP and had a discussion with him about my concerns, and it worked out well to get him involved in OLAP, but ultimately he had other incidents that caused him to be disbarred, and presently he doesn't have much of a chance to get back in being a lawyer. So.
Thank you both for sharing those experiences. Now for the closing statement, we'll start with Ms. Kobasher.
Thank you. So again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you all tonight and for those viewing in. I would like you to know that this is a race for a judge. A judge only requires that they have 6 years of practice and that they be in good standing. But that's not what makes a good judge. A good judge is somebody who has the legal knowledge, the experience, a person who's actively involved in their cases, and someone who's engaged in the community with their pulse on what is going on in the court. And I am that candidate. I'm actively engaged in our community. I also have the relevant experience already serving as a judicial officer in the Court of Common Pleas as a magistrate. I run the most efficient docket in the court, meaning that we have the least amount of cases pending beyond the Supreme Court guidelines and the least amount of cases pending overall. I would ask for your support, and I would acknowledge that I do have many endorsements coming into this election. I'm endorsed by the Lorain County Sheriff's Deputies Association, as well as the Lorain and Elyria Fire Departments, the Lorain County AFL-CIO, the UAW CAP Council, and the Laborers International Union for Lorain County. And I thank you again for your time, and I'm Melissa Kobasher, asking for your vote this election.
Thank you. Mr. Ballasini, your closing statement?
Thank you. To help you choose the right person to be the next judge, the members of the Lorain County Bar Association rated the candidates for judge. And they do that every time that there's a judicial race. They have a poll that's run by the American Bar Association. The rating comes out with 3 categories: not recommended, recommended, or highly recommended. The 5 categories are legal capacity, judicial temperament, independence, commitment, and integrity character. I was the only candidate who was highly recommended. I was highly recommended in each of those 5 categories, and most highly rated in the category of integrity and character, a rating that I am very proud of. I therefore humbly ask for your vote on November 8th as the next Common Pleas judge in Lorain County.
Thank you both.
Thank
and
you.
That concludes the race for the judge of the Court of Common Pleas. So we'll be back in just a second with our biggest race, which will be the judge for the 9th District Court of Appeals. So please join us.
What do you wish for? A nice life? Nice things? Or do you wish for something more? A sense of purpose? Do you wish to discover a cure? To write code that cracks an unsolvable question? To further our exploration into space? Or to invent something that changes everything right here on Earth? Well, if that's your wish, make yourself ready. Because when you look back, you'll see that you didn't just make wishes, you realized them.
Welcome back. We're now going to cover the judge for the 9th District Court of Appeals. And we have today 5 of the 6 candidates that were able to join us. It's Donna J. Carr, Amber Crowe, Scott Stevenson, Erica Voorhees, and Thomas A. Teodosio. In Spanish, we pronounce every vowel, so I don't think I did that one right.
You did a good job, Frank.
Okay, so we're going to begin with opening statements, and we'd like to begin with Ms. Carr.
Thank you. I want to first of all begin to thank Chip for having this event tonight. This is one of several that I have attended over the years because I am on the Court of Appeals now as their current judge on the 9th District Court of Appeals, and I have been there for 24 years. I have a soft spot in my heart for Lorraine in particular because I married into a Lorraine Hispanic family, and I know that we're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and since I have 3 Hispanic children, I am I just want to say that I'm very grateful to be here tonight for that. The main thing I want to emphasize for me, though, is my experience on the 9th District Court of Appeals. I have been elected 4 times by this community to serve as your Court of Appeals judge. And as I always say to everybody when I've been running for re-election, I know what I am getting into, and I still want to do it. I still have a passion for the Court of Appeals. I have a passion for the cases and the people that come in front of me, and I'd like to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Crowe, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and address everybody tonight. Thank you, Lorain County. I have been designated an honorary Lorain Countyan. I very much enjoy Lorain County and the people that I've met, so thank you for your time and letting me explain a little bit about what I'm doing here. Judges matter, folks. What happens inside of a courtroom impacts your daily lives outside of the courtroom. And you need to make sure that you are voting and electing people that appreciate how serious that responsibility is. My name is Magistrate Amber Crowe. I am currently a Summit County Juvenile Court Magistrate. I've been a prosecutor in the Child Protection Division of the Summit County Prosecutor's Office, a criminal felony prosecutor, a defense attorney doing criminal defense, familial defense. I've also done guardian ad litem work with a specialization, a focus, I will say, in human trafficking. I deal with a lot of vulnerable and high-risk populations. I've been a mediator. I've filled in as bailiff. There's not a seat in the courtroom I haven't held or filled, except for defendant. And I'm hoping to add judge to that list come November 8th. So what I'm going to let you guys know is let's go, vote Crowe.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stevenson, your opening statement.
Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's a Wednesday night. I'm sure you could have thought of some other things to do, so thank you for being here. We certainly appreciate you getting educated about the voters. And to do that, let me say it's my first time on the ballot here in Lorain County. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am most proud of my family. I've been married for 29 years to my wife, Diana. We have 2 children. Joshua is our oldest. He is a former college golfer, and he worked at Firestone Country Club. Our youngest child, Alex, is a baseball player at Heimer College. And I'm very inspired and proud of them for their efforts in pursuing what they love to do. I currently am the Chief Magistrate at the Summit County Domestic Relations Court. Prior to that, I had been a judge in the Common Pleas Court in 2016. I had a private practice for 24 years, and while I was doing that, one of the things that was very important to me was to do pro bono work. I made a lot of effort to help people in our community by doing that, and I was proud to receive the Pro Bono Attorney of the Award from the Volunteer Legal Service Program 3 times in 2004, 2008, and 2015. It's because of those experiences and the way I've conducted myself as a judge, the Akron Bar Association rated me excellent, which is the highest ranking they can give anyone in our race. They also rank Tom Teodosio that as well, so he's my opponent, so I'll acknowledge that. And I'm happy to be here, and I anticipate answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Teodosio.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. I am Judge Tom Teodosio, and I am the presiding judge of the 9th District Court of Appeals. You elected me in 2016, and since that time I've decided or participated in over 1,300 opinions. I've authored over 450 opinions. I've also had the honor of sitting with the Ohio Supreme Court. The Chief Justice appointed me or assigned me to do that in a very interesting case. I must have done a good job because she also assigned me to sit with 1/2 of the courts of appeals in this state, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 11th District. I received the highest rating of excellent from the Akron Bar Association, and I also received the highest rating possible of highly recommended from your Lorain County Bar Association. Also, I think it's important for you to know that for 9 years I served on the Ohio Supreme Court's Advisory Committee on Interpreter Services. You just heard about it. And what that did is it makes sure that non-English speaking parties receive a fair trial. I ask for your support and look forward to talking to you some more tonight.
Thank you. And last but definitely not least, Ms. Voorhees.
Thank you. I'm Erica Voorhees. I'm one of the magistrates at the Summit County Court of Common Pleas General Division. You're going to hear a lot about my qualifications as a magistrate and candidate tonight, so I'm going to first introduce you to me as a person, as some of my colleagues have done up here. I'm a wife of 17 years. I'm a mother to 2 children, our 14-year-old son, our 7-year-old daughter. I'm also a daughter to my mother, who was widowed in 1996 when my father passed away, and she moved in with us in 2019 pursuant to some health concerns. All of this really comes together to explain to you how I became a first-generation college graduate, law school graduate, and then began my career serving the most vulnerable populations of Summit and Stark County as a public defender. After those 11 years that I spent as a public defender, most recently representing juvenile survivors of human trafficking, I moved on to work at the court as a magistrate and judicial attorney. Since 2016, I've been sitting in those capacities, writing judicial opinions, making decisions in the court, and I'm a well-rounded and well-qualified candidate who will respectfully request your vote when this is over.
Thank you. We're now going to go into the questions, and I'm going to ask the first question. For those of you in the audience, if you look up at the slide, you are looking at the 2 people that are running top and bottom. They're running against each other. So for the first question, I'm going to ask question to one, and then to their opponent if that opponent is here. So we're going to begin. And we will begin with Mr. Stevenson. Mr. Stevenson, what is the most significant challenge facing the court for which you are seeking election? And how do you feel that challenge can best be addressed?
I always think the most significant challenge facing courts is that they stay within their constitutional bounds. And we as judges are required to follow the law, follow the Constitution, and interpret it as it's written, not as we would like it to be. And that's a challenge we face every day when we make decisions. We have to continue to do that. We have to clearly follow the law, know what it is, apply it equally. And that's a challenge for us. It's a challenge for the court. I think they do it every day, and that's what the Court of Appeal job is. It is making sure the trial courts in Lorain, Medina, Wayne, that is our district, are following the law as it's written, make sure when people bring their appeals and they have their issues that they raise, that we make sure the court do what they're supposed to do and the citizens are treated well in the courts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Teodosio?
Well, I would agree that's the role of the court, but the biggest challenge that we're having right now is fully bouncing back from COVID, believe it or not. The common pleas courts are backed up, and what we do as a court of appeals is we travel to each of the jurisdictions. So we drive up to Lorraine and sit in your courtrooms when we hear your cases here. We drive to Worcester to hear our cases out of Wayne County. We'll drive to Medina. And because courts are trying to catch up with their dockets, we're not back fully in operation as far as traveling and hearing live in-person arguments. Also, I think the case management systems that we have could be updated, and we are implementing a new case management system. As the presiding judge, I have a role in that, and that's going to be improving. So that's a big improvement that will help litigants, attorneys as well.
Thank you. Ms. Voorhees, what do you feel is the most significant challenge facing the court for which you are seeking election, and how do you feel this challenge can best be addressed?
The most significant challenge at the Court of Appeals level is the shroud of mystery that I think still hangs over the Court of Appeals and the appellate process. As I indicated, I've been an attorney for 17 years. When I first approached practicing in the appellate district, which was the 5th district at the time down in Stark County, many of the attorneys that I practiced with couldn't even advise me on how to begin. So if attorneys don't know how to practice in their court, certainly it's understandable if the public doesn't understand what's happening at an appellate court level. While I have a deep appreciation for the intellectual nature of what an appellate court does, considering that it's reviewing other lawyers, other judges, and the processes by which those things happen at the county and city levels, I still don't think that that's mutually exclusive, that we can't also be involved with our community as judges and judicial officers and bring a little more public involvement with the Court of Appeals process so people know what's happening in their courts, because the courts are just that, belonging to the people.
Thank you. Ms. Carr?
Thank you so much. I appreciate the question. As a matter of fact, the 9th District Court of Appeals in the 24 years that I've been there has been at the forefront of educating the public as to what the appellate process is and what the appellate court system involves in the state of Ohio. We developed, and I was one of the people that established it, the first courtroom, I always do that, courtroom in the classroom program, where we have taken our classroom around to all the schools in our district. As a matter of fact, we've participated in these sessions many times in Lorain County at many school districts around here. So the thing is with that, I do agree that people still don't understand, and I think that's in some ways because they're not involved in the court system. It's difficult for everybody to become educated as to that. So that's one of our roles. We were the first to have a video of the Court of Appeals arguments.
Hey, Ms. Crowe.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much for that question. I think I was the first candidate at our Elyria Q&A that went on record of saying that's one of the biggest issues with the 9th District Court of Appeals is many folks don't know how important it is, who the judges are, and what that process is. But rather than belaboring that point, I wanted to bring up another point regarding the 9th District, and I think it's the pool of attorneys who take court-appointed appellate cases. The litigants who are in the Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals certainly represent a broad pool of diverse people in these 4 counties. I would like to work to engage, bar associations, our law schools, and look to see how we can broaden and diversify and get more attorneys on our list to practice in the Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals to make sure that people are receiving effective and fair representation on very important issues that are before the court.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowe. You're actually going to start off our next set of questions. Why are you running for this office, and why should our citizens vote for you on November 8th?
I am running for this office to help restore faith in our constituents that a judge can be honest, integral, and committed to ensuring fair access to justice, not just at municipal court levels or courts of common pleas, but to the intermediate state courts, which we know are very important. We've heard some of the candidates up here tonight mention just how important the intermediate courts are. The Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals, our courts are considered the working man's Supreme Court. We've heard that a lot, and it's true. We need to make sure that we've got good, honest, fair, well-rounded judges. I know that the reaches of the Ohio 9th District Court, the court hears juvenile cases, municipal cases, Court of Common Pleas cases. We need to make sure that we are committed to ensuring that somebody's trial court was fair, that the Constitution was not violated, and that's why I've decided to run for this court in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Voorhees, the same question.
The reason I'm running for this court is because, as I indicated, I was very concerned about the level of mystery that existed around the appellate process. But I do agree with Magistrate Crowe that there's quite a lot of well-roundedness that can be brought to the court. The way that we do that is by being involved with our community. There's going to be no need for a lot of questions and candidates nights, the number that we've been to. If your community has more involvement from the people who are sitting on the bench. Just like many of you know, some of the people who are serving in your community now because you've broken bread with them, you've sat at the same tables with them, appellate judges should be the same. There's nothing about that process that prohibits people from being accessible to their community. Of course, judges have their ethical boundaries of things we can and can't discuss. For example, cases that are likely to come before the court, our particular feelings on issues, but we can still be present in the community. That's the reason I'm running.
Thank you. Ms. Carr, why are you running for re-election for this office?
Thank you again. I'm running for re-election because I love what I do. And I think I've done a good job in fairly and impartially handling the cases and respecting justice for the people that come in front of me from this district. And I would love to keep doing it. As I said in my opening statement, I know what I'm getting into, and I want to continue doing it. I also want to just add to because I ran out of time, so I have another 30 seconds or so. I wanted to talk about the challenge to the court. And one of the challenges to me that I have always had on my mind for the 24 years I've been on the Court of Appeals and the 3 years as a trial judge before that, and that is access to justice and also, fairness and the perception of justice for the people in the state and in the country as far as that goes. And that's something that really I have really worked on. We have, pro se forms that are available on our court website. We try to make stuff accessible to people. And I think it's just really important now that we take the political process out of the judgeships in the state of Ohio because we need to have an independent judiciary.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson, why are you running for this office, and why should our citizens vote for you on November 8th?
Thank you. I am running for office in large part because I enjoy being a public servant. My job at the Domestic Relations Court is to serve people. When I'm doing that, I've enjoyed it. I help people that come before me work their cases out, find resolution, and that's one of the things I get a great deal of pride out of doing. I continue to do that when I was in my practice, representing people and doing pro se work. And at the Ninth District Court of Appeals, I feel it is important that we have people that are there to serve, to make sure when people come to the court, they're treated with respect and dignity and their cases are resolved as speedily as possible. And I certainly think it is my responsibility to do that. And I am asking for your support so I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Teodosio, why are you running for re-election?
Well, Judge Carr stole my answer. I really, really love my job. And I think I do an excellent job as a Court of Appeals judge. I shouldn't say I think I do an excellent job. I've been rated excellent by the Akron Bar Association. Your Lorain County Bar Association rated me the highest rating possible. I've been endorsed by over 100 community leaders, organizations, and unions, including many individuals you know, so make sure you check that out. And I have the characteristics that you want in a judge. For instance, in 2021, I was the recipient of the St. Thomas More Award, which is given to one person in the legal community in recognition of outstanding personal integrity and professional excellence. I ask that you keep excellence on the court and re-elect me to the Ninth District Court of Appeals.
Thank you. Now for the third question, we'll start with Mr. Teodosio. And the question is, what elements in your training, background, and experience have prepared you to deal with questions within cases involving legal rights for minorities and women?
When I was on the trial court bench, I was the only judge at the time out of 10 judges that had an African-American bailiff. I also worked with a broad spectrum of the community through the drug court that I presided over for 10 years. Also, my involvement in the community is very broad. Again, I'm not going to take the time to list all of my community involvement, but I suggest you go to judgetomteodosio.com and you'll find that there. I'm a big believer in collaboration, and that's what I've done as a judge, so I'm going to look for those assets in the community that will help me make best decisions for everybody. My reputation as a judge has been established over 16 years, and that reputation is being fair, impartial, and compassionate. Again, I think those are the qualities you want to see in a judge. So again, I ask for your support this November.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson, the same question.
Thank you. I think what best qualifies me to represent cases involving legal rights for minorities and women is the fact that I was in practice for 24 years, and I represented folks of all types of folks, women, men, any minorities, anyone who came in the door that needed legal help, I represented them. So I'm used to representing their rights, talking to them, working through their cases. I think that's very important. I come from a working class community, Barberton, which has a lot of minorities and folks that we deal with there and we talk to and know very well. I've also served on the Salvation Army Board in Barberton and the Barberton Area Community Ministries, where we helped, all comers that came to us that needed their help, we could offer them. So I was proud to do that and proud to serve my community in that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Crowe, the same question.
So I think my background that leads me to answer this question is the fact that I am actually a double minority. I am a female, and I am an Ojibwe member of the Alderville First Nation. So I'm Native American, a tribal status Native American. And so throughout my practice, I knew that I wanted to make sure I was truly serving people. And I have focused many years of my practice and the fact that I'm now a magistrate on serving underrepresented and vulnerable populations. A lot of that has been focused on minority representation. I have represented many females in civil protection order hearings, helping them leave abusive relationships, even if it's just a consultation, trying to help and guide through very difficult processes. As a magistrate, I make sure to treat each and every person before me with dignity and respect, applying the law equally and consistently, regardless of one's gender or race. And that's what needs to happen when you are a judge and when you're looking at your judicial candidates. Make sure that there aren't hidden agendas. Make sure you're researching and informing yourself about their practices and who they are and what they represent. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Voorhees?
Thank you. I want to preface this answer by saying I have had a passenger seat view of some of the issues, though I know I can't possibly know what it's like to be the one experiencing issues that face some minorities and some women, because some of the issues that have been faced that I've seen in that passenger seat as attorneys to people who are facing some of those issues are very, very challenging. Occasionally I took the driver's seat on that when people didn't know what to do. So that was how I spent very much of the 11 years as a public defender. Now from the bench, when we look at issues that involve women and minorities, we're often talking about things that can be helped and accommodated from the bench. For example, daycare issues, which often fall to women to take care of. You have to be accommodating with time. So if somebody can only appear at a specific time, you do your best to accommodate that. If somebody has transportation issues, you do your best to accommodate that. It's just about being open-minded, being a human being, having some compassion, and trying to understand that circumstances are different to each particular person.
Thank you. And Ms. Carr, the same question.
Well, thank you again. And I do have a well-rounded background, I think, and experience in dealing with these issues. When the Racial Fairness Commission was implemented in Ohio back in the 90s, I was appointed to the subcommittee of the Interpreter Services Committee to establish for the first time actual regulations and rules in regard to interpreters in the courtroom to protect limited English proficient individuals that are in the courtroom. I also actually helped draft Rule 88 of the superintendent's rules that deals with this issue in regard to interpreters. Also, in my private practice and also as a county prosecutor in the civil division, I represented plaintiffs and defendants in civil rights litigation and specifically dealt with sexual harassment with females in the workplace. So I have a good background in regard to all this, and I think I'm very empathetic as to how to handle these situations.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. Now for your closing statements, we'll start with Ms. Voorhees.
Thank you. I also want to start off by saying thank you for inviting me and for listening to your candidates speak. I realize that there's quite a lot of us that are considering, that you're considering as your judges for your 9th District Court of Appeals, so I thank you for listening. Again, you've heard a lot about my qualifications and my career. I would invite you to learn as much as you'd like by visiting my website. That's Voorhees4judge.com. Voorhees has 2 O's and 2 E's, forjudge.com. You can also take a look at my social media. I'm a very active poster about things that I do around the community, so you'll have a good idea of where I am when I'm around and what I'm doing with my family when I'm not. I also would invite you to take a look at the endorsements page. I'm very careful about the endorsements that I seek and that I accept. So while I might not have dozens and dozens, the ones that I do have mean very much to me, and they were a product of very deep consideration. That being said, I think that I hope that you vote for me on November 8th or sooner, because I really am the kind of public servant that you want on the bench and somebody you're actually going to see in your community and have a conversation with. So again, Magistrate Erica Voorhees on November 8th or sooner. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Voorhees. Ms. Carr?
Thank you again for having me here tonight. As I indicated in my opening statement, I have been elected by this community for 4 terms, and I'm seeking my 5th term now. In those 24 years, I've handled all the cases that have come in front of the court. I've worked on various opinions and so forth, and I have been presiding and administrative judge. I've been involved in 7,500 cases. But in the 24 years I've been on the court, I I have been respected in the community. I've been rated excellent by the Akron Bar Association after an extensive endorsement process. The Cleveland Plain Dealer endorsed me today, just today. I'm very grateful for that. The Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association has endorsed me. So I have been endorsed also by retired sheriffs of the Democrat and Republican Party. So I'm proud of my service to this community and all the people of the 9th District Court of Appeals, and that's what I think I should be reelected, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. Mr. Teodosio?
Thank you for having me today. You know, the Court of Appeals is so important. Most people don't have their case entered into the Ohio Supreme Court, so we really are the Supreme Court for most litigants. And that's why experience is important. And before I forget, I was also endorsed by the Plain Dealer this morning, and I'm very proud of that. Almost forgot that. Let me talk about my experience. 25 years as a trial attorney in state and federal court. Criminal cases, civil cases, juvenile, domestic, probate. 6 years as a legislator in the serving the Summit County Council. 10 years as a trial court judge, as opposed to less than a year for my opponent as a trial court judge. Handling all sorts of criminal and civil cases, including death penalty cases. And then, of course, my 6 years as an appellate judge. Experience matters. This is a very, very important court. I have that experience. I have excellent ratings, so I'm asking that you support me so I can continue to serve you with excellence on the 9th District Court of Appeals. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Crowe, your closing statement.
Thank you all again for having me tonight. I want to let you know I am the candidate of public service, not the path of least resistance. Some people may wonder why I have opted to run for the Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals rather than a municipal or a common pleas seat. And the fact of the matter is, I realize how important this court is and why my experience on that bench will serve the constituents of the Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals well. I've been a prosecutor, a defense attorney, guardian ad litem, mediator, magistrate, boards of directors, boards of appeals. What I bring to the bench is a little more than just my experience, which you are all more than capable of Googling, right? It's strength and compassion and a passion for people and a passion for the law and some common sense. And that's what we need. We need experience. We need people who take their roles on these benches seriously. So I'm going to ask you when it comes to November 8th for you to humbly, let's go vote Crowe. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Ms. Crowe. And Mr. Stevenson.
You come to these events, and the temptation is to stand up here and list all your qualifications and say, you know, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. I will say simply that the Akron Bar Association is excellent. That means I'm an excellent candidate for this race, period. The reason I'm running isn't that. The reason I'm running is because of my beliefs and the importance I feel about our courts. Our courts have a role to make sure that the elected representatives pass the laws. The courts give forth to your voice through your elected representatives by interpreting the laws as they're written and interpreting them until they're changed by the voters and the electors. So that's very important to me. That's why I'm in this race. That's why I'm running for this particular seat. So I can continue to do that and to make sure that occurs in our 9th District Court of Appeals. I thank you for your consideration today and for coming out. Thank you.
And we thank all of you. You know, it's funny that you guys have talked a little bit about how little the community knows about the 9th District Court of Appeals, and include me in that, as I did not include this race this year. I knew nothing about it. I didn't think it was something that we needed to cover until I was contacted by Mr. David Arredondo and Mr. Joel Arredondo, brothers in 2 different parties, leaders in our community, saying this is a race you've got to cover. I am very glad that we covered this race, and I thank you all, judges and candidates, for your service. Thank you very much. When we come back, we'll be covering the Lorain County Auditors, and I'd like to introduce you to both of those candidates. Thank you.
Ohio State is saving lives every day.
This is Ohio State.
We're the economic engine of the state. A major employer.
Over 60,000 students. We're on the forefront of cancer research. An educational core of Ohio.
Impacting tens of thousands daily.
Our alumni organization is nearly 500,000 worldwide.
This is Ohio State.
This is Ohio State. Ohio State.
This is the Ohio State University.
We make Marines who overpower the desire to quit with the perseverance to prevail. Not for glory, but for honor. For a code that isn't written or spoken, but lived. It's what we do. It's who we are. It's the battle cry of our fighting spirit. Battles won. See all the battles Marines fight to win at marines.com.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're now going to cover the Lorain County Auditor's race. We have two individuals running for that race. That's Mr. Roger Roser and Mr. Craig Snodgrass. We're going to begin with opening statements, and I'd like to begin with Mr. Roser.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. I want to start with that. It's great to see all these folks that are taking the time to come out and be a part of their, civic engagement. I wish there were more folks here, but to everybody that's out there in TV land, this is a good opportunity to learn about some good folks that are working hard to try to make this county and this community better. I'm proud to be the Republican nominee for Lorain County Auditor. I'm not running to be the Republican auditor. I'm not running to be the Democrat auditor. I'm running to be the Lorain County Auditor for our small businesses, our farmers, mostly our taxpayers and our hardworking women and men throughout the county. I'm a small business CEO. I'm a concerned citizen. I've been married for 21 years, born in Amherst, lived in Elyria, now live in Sheffield Village. But I just think it's important that we, as a community, find ways to come together, understand that things can be done better, possibly we deserve better from our elected officials on all sides, and I'd like your vote Roser for auditor.
Mr. Snodgrass, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. Good evening. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Coalition for organizing this evening's event. My name is Craig Snodgrass, your Lorain County Auditor, a position I've held for the last 10 years. Overall, I've been in the office for more than 28 years and have more than 3 decades of professional financial experience. I'm a certified public accountant and certified government financial manager. I also serve as Vice President of the County Auditors Association of Ohio and will be sworn in as President this November. I'm a graduate of Walsh University with a bachelor's degree in business, majoring in accounting. I also served 7 years on Lorain City Council, serving the 8th Ward. I'm a lifelong Lorainite. I reside on the west side of Lorain with my wife of 27 years, Wendy, and have 3 daughters, Madison, Morgan, and Emma. I also serve as a volunteer treasurer for Lorain County Metro Parks Levy Committee and serve as a member of the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame Committee and a past president. I've been endorsed by Lorain County AFL-CIO, the UAW Cab Council, the Lorain Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 3, and the Chronicle Telegram in my reelection for auditor.
Okay, and now we will move to our first question. And we will begin with Mr. Roser. Mr. Roser, what would be your most important priority if elected to the position of Lorain County Auditor?
Yeah. What my company does and what I do for a living, I'm the CEO of a strategic business operations and marketing firm. What we do is we go in and we audit businesses and organizations. I have clients all over the country and have for the past 20 years. I've worked with thousands of businesses, and we take a look at what they're doing from a financial standpoint, from a communications standpoint, a personnel standpoint, an operations standpoint, and we find areas of waste and improvement. We then go in and correct those areas where there are opportunities for improvement. We help make the business more successful. We help it not only to survive, but also to thrive. So my issues is I plan to institute areas of improvement in 3 key areas in the Auditor's Department: fiscal, personnel, and technology. I want everyone to have a positive experience regardless of the outcome. Whether that's online or in person at the Auditor's Department. And I also want to make sure that that my department will prove once and for all that you can actually have fiscal restraint in government and still provide exceptional service.
Thank you. Mr. Snodgrass?
Yes, thank you. I will continue to leverage the investment I've made in technology over the years. We have one of the greatest websites that are around. The other counties come and ask us how we do it, how we get it done. And we will continue to use that. And we will also use that as an economic tool. We have over 7,000 hits a day on my website. And I get calls from all over the country about the compliments that we receive on it and where locations where businesses might land. So I will continue to use that as an economic tool for the county, continue to push information out to people. And one of the other challenges is to get this information to the general public, to show what type of services the county offers, what kind of programs are available. Again, it is meeting with the people and getting things out. So those are the challenges that I want to move forward on.
Thank you. Mr. Snodgrass, the next question is, in what ways do you feel that you can contribute to the economic development of Lorain County if elected or reelected?
Thank you. I could have just mentioned that, but again, I would like to reiterate, we have a great website. Our mapping system has been recognized by organizations in the state. It's an award-winning website. Again, I share a lot of information with the Economic Development Department of the County Commissioners that they also then can take out to other businesses to show what lands, what properties are available to businesses that want to relocate. As I mentioned before, I get calls from all throughout the country. People want to be in Lorain County. And I think our website helps drive that. It gives a great deal of information. And then again, working with other departments, which is important here in county government. We work together with the county commissioners quite a bit, and we try to share that information.
Thank you. And Mr. Roser, the same question.
Yeah, I'm a big champion of Lorain County. I had the pleasure of moving back here after living out of state for a while. When I was CEO of my firm in Greater Cincinnati, we were twice named one of the fastest growing companies in the region. In 2012, I was an Inc. 5000 company as one of the fastest growing companies in the United States. What we need to do is make sure that we're finding ways from government at all levels, whether it's the auditor, the commissioner, you name it, that government gets the heck out of the way and lets businesses succeed and thrive and survive. We're going to set a good example by being less of a burden on the taxpayers and find ways that we can streamline operations within the auditor's department, streamline operations with how we're doing the business of auditor. And the less government can be in the way, the more successful business is going to be, and the less burdensome we are on taxpayers, the more money you can keep.
Thank you. And for your last question, Mr. Roser, we'll start with you. What are your ideas as to how a county auditor could reliably avoid mismanagement of county funds?
That's an interesting question. How can we reliably not mismanage funds? I guess you blindly trust us. You have a team of hopefully very qualified and exceptional people. Like I said, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I know how to cross the T's, dot the I's, and find every opportunity for success and weed out every area of waste. You've got a great staff, you've got a great team, you want to make sure that they're well trained, that they have ongoing training. In addition, the state auditors, we're certainly going to open whatever they need to see from Lorain County to make sure that we're as transparent as humanly possible. We're certainly going to follow all the laws, follow the codes. We're going to make sure that we're doing it right, and we're going to make sure that we're doing it efficiently.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Snodgrass, same question.
Yes. Again, on my past experience, I am a certified public accountant, and I've used the tools, my training, my background, my education to implement a great deal of internal controls in our county to make sure that funds are not being misused. We ensure that they are for a proper public purpose, that the proper authorizations have been made, and the documentation is there. If we do not get the information, we reject it. We have clean audits from the state of Ohio over the years. This is the best audit we actually have had in the 28 years I've been there. They found nothing. And the state is very thorough in what it's doing, what it's looking at. We've been very successful there. We went through a workers' comp audit recently, flying colors. We are doing our job to ensure that the monies are being paid and spent the proper way. So there is no mismanagement of county funds, and I'm proud of the procedures we have put in place to ensure that.
I mean, there better not be, right?
Thank you. And now you guys will have your closing statements. Each of you will have 1 minute. Mr. Snodgrass, we'll start with you.
Thank you. It is very clear I have the experience and proven history to continue to serve the citizens of Lorain County. During my tenure, my office has been nationally recognized for its excellence in financial reporting by the Government Financial Officers Association, has received clean audit opinions from the Auditor State's Office. The submission and valuation of properties have been approved by the State Tax Commissioner without issue, and my mapping system has received statewide recognition. Under my leadership, we will continue to strive for excellence and fight for fairness and equity amongst all taxpayers. Again, I would like to thank the Coalition for hosting this evening's event, and would like to thank everyone for their past support and humbly ask for the continued support and vote on November 8th. Thank you.
And Mr. Roser.
Sure. Look, I've traveled all throughout Lorain County. I've visited I don't even know how many different homes and organizations, and I share your concerns on increases in inflation, increases in crime, and increases in property taxes. These have been burdensome to folks, and it's crushing. We've had to tighten our belt. We've had to watch every nickel, but I don't want any of you guys to lose sleep because the politicians are still going to make sure that they get a salary. So they're certainly not going to starve. I'm going to reduce the fiscal footprint of the Auditor's Department. I'm going to do everything I can to start returning taxpayer dollars back to taxpayers. Look, I'm just a normal small business guy whose small business has become just a little bit smaller because of recent fiscal policies and politics. There's a large burden on organizations because of government salaries, bonuses, projects, draconian lockdowns. And as each of us tightens our belt and our household finances, the government never has to because of you. So if you'd like a little smaller government, if you think that it's a little bit enough, like I do, vote for me. If you think everything's hunky-dory and perfect, don't.
Thank you. And that'll conclude the end of that race.
Thanks, Kate. Good to see you.
The Warriors to Work program makes it possible for wounded warriors and their families to build new lives together.
When my dad left, I was like this big, but now I'm like this big. My dad got a master's degree in human resources.
Thanks to Warriors to Work that my dad has a terrific job.
The Wounded Warrior Project helps him by, giving him another start.
Now that my dad's home, I get a lot more hugs.
I'm really proud of him.
Find out more about Wounded Warrior Project at findwwp.org. Welcome home, the brave.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We would have moved into now the state representative race for the 52nd District. Unfortunately, State Representative Gail Manning had another engagement and was not able to be here with us today. But since Ms. Reagan Phillips had signed up very early on to participate, we've decided to let her come on, and we're giving her 2 minutes to go ahead and pitch her candidacy. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Reagan Phillips.
Hi, folks. I'm Reagan Phillips, an everyday hometown girl. I was born and raised here in South Lorraine and moved to the city of Elyria during my graduating year of high school from Elyria High School. I'm running for state representative for District 52, which includes Elyria, North Ridgeville, Avon, 2 townships, Elyria Township and Sheffield Township. I've been immersed in this community for over a decade, advocating for issues that impact the lives of everyday people. I'm a member of the Mental Health Addiction and Recovery Services Board, the Community Foundation, Leadership Lorain County, the NAACP, president of the Lorraine section of National Council of Negro Women. And I plan to continue advocating for livable wages because we deserve more than a decent living, we deserve a decent life. People should not work all week and simply not have enough money to make ends meet. Safer schools and communities, because when we send our babies off to school and college, we expect them to return home to us whole. Accessible health care and reproductive rights. Our medication should be affordable, and reproductive rights are a human right. Our choice of contraceptive should be that of a woman, as we own our bodies. Listen, friends, I need your vote on November 8th. Early voting started today. The Chronicle-Telegram says that I would make a great elected official, that if I don't win in November, I should run again. I'm gonna tell you, elections have consequences. And I ask that you place integrity, character, hope, and fresh perspective on the ballot. Don't put off tomorrow what you could do today. Vote everyday people to elect Reagan Phillips as your state representative for District 52. You can find more information at electreaganphillips.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chip.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we'll be covering the Ohio State Senate 13th District.
Sergeant Michelle Garcia served meritoriously in Iraq and has the medals to prove it. Soon after leaving the Navy, Lieutenant Chris Scott found a job, a home, and started a family of his own. Corpsman Richard Stokely took the skills he learned in Vietnam and put them to good use as a paramedic. But soon after leaving the military, each of these veterans fell on hard times and faced homelessness. Even after Michelle lost all her savings, even after Chris wasn't able to pay his mortgage, and even after Richard battled alcoholism for years, they each reached out for help when they needed it most. A simple phone call put them in touch with a trained professional from the Department of Veterans Affairs. That call got Michelle a place to stay until she could afford one of her own, put Chris in touch with employment assistance, and found Richard a substance abuse program. These veterans are success stories not only for how they were able to help others while serving their country, but for how they were able to let others help them. If you know of or are a veteran in need, make the call.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And now we're going to cover the state senator race for the 13th District. The candidates are Mr. Nathan Manning, Nathan H. Manning. Remember, you have to check off the exact when you're voting. And Mr. Anthony Eliopoulos. Close? Okay. Yeah, you thought I messed that one up. Okay, so we're going to begin with opening statements, and we'll begin with Mr. Eliopoulos.
Perfect. First, I want to thank Chip. Thank you, Senator Manning. Thank you all for being here this evening. I'm Anthony Eliopoulos. I'm running to represent you in the Ohio Senate's 13th District. My whole goal is to put community growth over personal gain. So much of my life, I've been told in our political discourse that politics is about big government versus small government. And so far in my life, I've just seen the concentration of power siphoned to the top, and I'm running to help change that. Over a decade ago, this local government fund from the state budget was cut in half, and it has yet to be restored to that level. This funding is critical for our local communities to do the simple things: fix roads, invest in parks, and invest in our local communities. That's exactly what we need to be doing, and the siphoning of power to the top is only crippling our voters and our everyday workers. I'm Anthony Eliopoulos, running to represent you, and thank you for tonight.
Okay, your opening statement, Senator Manning?
Well, yes, thank you, Chip, for doing this. You guys always do a wonderful job. I love being here. Certainly thank you, Anthony, for being here as well. I'm Nathan Manning, running for re-election for State Senate District 13. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a proud North Ridgeville grad, then went off to Denison and Capitol Law School. Came back up, threw up a shingle with my sister Allison in 2007 during the recession. Not the best time to start a small business during the recession, and they certainly teach you a lot during law school, but they don't teach you how to run a business. But proud to say we're still going strong 15 years later. During that time, I also became the prosecutor for City North Ridgeville. Ran for the State House in 2014 and thankfully won, and was able to serve 2 terms in the House. And during that time, I was the Criminal Justice Chair and also in a leadership position as the Policy Chair. I got elected to this State Senate in 2018. I'm very proud to be wrapping up my first term here and serving as the chair of the Judiciary Committee. I'm a little biased. I know we have a few lawyers and judges in the room, but I do think that's probably the second most important committee, certainly the busiest, deals with a lot of different things. I also serve on the Finance Committee, which handles the budget. So thank you.
Okay, thank you both. And now we're going to move into the very first question, and we're going to begin with Senator Manning. This is a question more for the heart. The question is, what do you think the impact should be from the continuing effort by students to change gun laws in the state of Ohio?
Yes, great question. Difficult question. You know, anytime you talk guns, it's always a hotly debated subject. People are passionate on both sides of the issue. Certainly a Second Amendment supporter, although I think there are very good common sense things we need to do. When students get involved in things, you certainly always want to listen. We love having students down to Columbus, whether to testify, tour the State House, intern with us. And I applaud any young people that get involved on any issue. On the particular issue of guns, you know, I think there are things that we can do at the state level. Senator Dolan, a neighbor to us in Cuyahoga County, a Republican, has introduced legislation, and you know, while talking to students and other advocates on common sense gun reform. So I think we need to, you know, stop digging our heels in. Work on both sides of the aisle and see what are some good common sense solutions to keep guns out of bad people's hands, but still support and protect those Second Amendment rights.
Thank you. Mr. Eliopoulos, the same question?
Yeah, there is a lot we can do, and unfortunately the State House and our top of our governor haven't done anything about it. Specifically, mandatory waiting periods, raising the minimum age to purchase a firearm to 21, better red flag laws, suicide prevention, and monitoring social media companies and holding them accountable for when people are posting online that they want to harm and do harm to others, and then they can go off and get a gun the same day and then use it. You know, simple things like that and common sense things will do a lot to save lives. And if that can only save one life, to me, that piece of legislation is worth it. Unfortunately, like I said, the State House has made it easier for people to get guns, have made less training for people to carry guns. We need to do something right now, and the time is now. It's common sense. If you want to carry a gun, you have to get trained, you have to know how to use it. I'm trained on an M4. I'm a soldier in the Army. We are trained nonstop every single year, every day, how to use our weapon. And it's a weapon of war, and citizens should be held to that same standard.
Thank you, Mr. Oh, I'm going to kill your name. I tried.
Say it one more time.
Eliopoulos. Okay, the next question, sorry about that. Can you name a current tax or fee that you would repeal if elected or re-elected?
Yeah, so currently it's not really a specific fee, but it's our tax system itself. It disproportionately impacts the lower half of our state in Ohio. People at the top, since 2005, have paid on average $3,000 less annually in Ohio every single year, and that's starting at the top. We need to do better to make sure people at the lower end are not paying too much and don't have too much of a financial burden to fund our systems. And then people at the top paying their fair share, finding loopholes that we can close, specifically a lot of commercial loopholes that we can close. Make sure that commercial property taxes are going towards our school systems. These are things that I want to do in the state Senate, and specifically when it comes to a tax or fee that we can get rid of, and I think we ought to get rid of it. If you buy an electrical vehicle in Ohio today, you have to pay more to register that vehicle. That is backwards. It doesn't make sense. We should be incentivizing people to have more fuel-efficient cars, and we need to do that as a state.
Thank you. Senator Manning, the same question.
Yes, when I got elected in 2014, I certainly came in with the overall goal of lowering the overall tax burden, and we've done just that. You know, in 2014 and a few years earlier, we were a horrible business environment for employers. They were not looking at the state of Ohio to expand here, to come here. We were rated by many different business magazines and rating groups out there as in the 40s. Now, 8 years later, we're in the top 10 in many of those same rankings. We have lowered that overall tax burden. The income tax we have lowered significantly. I supported the biggest tax cut in Ohio history last budget while staying on Finance Committee. And we actually have raised revenue. We've been able to bring in more revenue because more jobs, more businesses are coming to Ohio. So with good business-friendly environment and lower taxes, we're able to actually raise the revenue and be able to apply that to our community.
Thank you. And for your last question, starting with you, Senator Manning, would you be willing to rewrite abortion legislation, in quotes, to restore rights and to allow medical providers to use their best medical judgment without risk of criminal charges? What would be your consideration in deciding whether or not to support this effort?
Yes, great question. With Roe v. Wade being overturned, this is, abortion has always been a very popular topic and a hot button issue. And it's a sensitive issue. People are very dug in on both sides of this issue. And I'm not saying we necessarily need to look at polling on everything, but we are representatives. We represent the people. And I think overwhelmingly, certainly you have people that are 100% pro-choice. I have other people that are 100% pro-life. But I think the majority of individuals that maybe don't make this their top issue are somewhere in the middle, that they think maybe late-term abortions shouldn't be allowed, but there should be some reasonable time for people to make a very difficult decision. I'm one of the few Republicans that voted against the heartbeat bill. I voted against defunding Planned Parenthood because I didn't think it was the right thing for our community, for our district. But I have supported other pro-life legislation. I think there is that happy medium. I think we need to get to the table. I'm one of those legislators that do that. Get to the table, work something out, and get something done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Iliopoulos, the same question.
Yeah, and specifically the question, would you allow medical providers to use their best medical judgment without risk of criminal charges? Yes, 100%. I would support that legislation. And furthermore, we need to listen to these experts in the field. Earlier this summer, the American Medical Association stated that it is an infringement on human rights for governments to come in and change laws regarding reproductive freedom. With Roe, it was safe, it was easy and affordable to get an abortion if you had chosen so. And now, unfortunately, legislators in our state are forced to deal with this situation. Legislators have to draw the line. When with Roe, women got to draw the line. And this is a really difficult time for Ohio because legislators have to look at, with exceptions, if we're going to deal with exceptions, if we're going to look at rape, for example, what do you have to do to get that exception? Is it a conviction in a court of law to prove that, or do you just go to a medical provider and say, I was raped? These are things that now the state has to deal with, and with Roe there, it was protected, and I'm furthermore, I'm for having the same parameters that Roe established.
Thank you very much. You will both each have 1 minute in closing statements. Senator Manning, we'll start with you.
Yes, once again, Chip, thank you so much for having us. You do a fantastic job. I certainly am asking for your support for re-election to the State Senate for 13th District. I have a proven record of working across the aisle. I have a proven record of getting complex issues done. I have passed many bills that have affected our community in a positive way. I've also worked on many big issues. I have worked on criminal justice reform. That is a very tough issue to tackle, and we've gotten a lot of positive things done. I work on workforce development with Lorain County Community College. I even work on sports betting if you want to lose a little bit of money on the Browns this year. But the biggest thing I'm proud of is working on those local issues, whether it's with the Howdy Shell family that lost their son to not be able to get their insulin filled, whether it's working on Lorraine issues, on the sore loser law that I've worked with many of you on, and most importantly, working on the Lorain City Schools under state takeover. I'm proud that my amendment was the one that went into the state budget that got them out of state takeover. I'm endorsed by the Plain Dealer, the Chronicle Telegram, many diverse groups out there, both unions, OEA, FOP. I think I was the only Republican endorsed by the Lorraine FOP, and many trade unions out there. I hope you are just like them and support me come November. Thank you.
That's it, right?
No, he has his closing statement.
I'm sorry, Mr. Iliopoulos.
Thank you.
I had to get it in.
He wanted to say it one last time.
Mr. Iliopoulos, your closing statement, sir.
Thank you. When I enlisted in the Army when I was 19 years old in 2016, it was one of the most challenging moments of my life. My father was diagnosed with cancer, and when I was actually at basic training, my father passed away from that cancer. And during that time, you have to go on emergency family leave to be able to go home and stop your training. And there was a lot of problems, I can tell you firsthand, that our service members go through to just deal and to be there with their families at such a hard time. And really, I had two options. I could quit, I could not continue to go back to training, or I could try to find the solution to that problem. So I later decided to commission as an officer in the Army National Guard, and that's what I currently still do. I'm a personnel staff service officer, so I deal with equal opportunity, sexual harassment claims, and overall I care for the service members. And me running for office is really an extension of that service. I want to do the same for our community here in Lorain, Erie, and Huron counties. I'm endorsed by the Ohio Nurses Association, the Ohio Association of Public School Employees, the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees as well. And I hope to earn your vote on or before November 8th. You can early vote tomorrow if you want to. If you vote early, you don't get the text messages and the email lists anymore, so go out and do that. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you both for sharing your time with us today. Okay, we're now going to move into the Lorain County Commissioner's race when we come back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're now going to cover the Lorain County Commissioner's race with Jeffrey Riddell and Matt Lundy. Okay, we'll begin with opening statements, and we'd like to begin with Mr. Lundy.
Well, good evening, everyone. And first, I want to thank Chip for hosting this event. I've enjoyed being here on many occasions. I think it's great that we're in the international city, something we're always very proud of here in Lorain County. And as I join you here tonight, I want you to know that I value and I embrace diversity. I'm a proud graduate of Lorain County Community College. I also hold a Bachelor of Science degree in Human Resource Management from Friends University in Wichita, Kansas. You probably haven't heard of that one. It's been an honor to serve as a state representative for Lorain County and also to serve as your county commissioner. I have very much enjoyed working closely with El Centro here in Lorain and Urban League in Elyria, making sure that we make life better for our families. I strive to always be fair and reasonable and bring common sense to the table. I'm asking for your support on November 8th.
Thank you. Mr. Riddell, your opening statement.
Thank you. And thank you to Chip for hosting this event. As there's a trend in the world of public service today for first-time candidates, of which I am one, it's events like this that allow us the opportunity to get our word out and to hear from folks and other candidates and to get ready to serve. I'm joined tonight by my wife of 44 years. A little background, we were both born and raised in the city of Lorain, 4 doors apart. And we have 4 children that we raised in Avon Lake, and we have 6 grandchildren scattered around northeastern Ohio, but 3 of them here in Lorain County. I've been a lifelong resident, born and raised in Lorain, lived in Avon Lake while we raised our family, and Donna and I are now in Henrietta Township. I state that because the role of a county commissioner has a diverse representative group to serve. And I believe that I understand the rural, the urban, and the suburban environments that create that diversity that we enjoy in Lorain County, but also some of the complications in public servants in trying to serve those diverse constituencies. I've been fortunate to be the 4th generation in a family business, and I've enjoyed a quality of life in Lorain County that I would like to see return to its former luster and grow. I have 40 years of success in that family business, largely due to treating our customers squarely with no games and no gimmicks. We treat our employees with the respect that they deserve, for the talent that they bring. We build a team using their individual strengths, and we work in a common goal and direction. I've had the privilege of keeping 50 to 100 people employed for those 40 years. Thank you.
Okay. All right, now we'll go into our first question. You're going to be asked 3 questions. You will have a minute to respond to each question. We'll begin with Mr. Riddell. Mr. Riddell, during the past 3 elections, Lorain County's transportation services continue to fall short of meeting the needs of its citizens. If elected, what will you do to improve a situation that disproportionately affects the working poor of our community?
Well, I think using my logistics background and having some small minor knowledge of the past failures of the mass transportation system in the county, I believe our diversity is one of our biggest challenges. But as somebody who spent, again, over 40 years getting something from where it is to something where it wants to be, I think we can move people from where they are to where they need to be to work and to enjoy life. But I think we need to be thinking in terms of numbers and census and not in terms of fancy diagrams and pathways. I think that when I served at Lorain County Community College, unfortunately we had to open 3 branch campuses due to the failure of mass transportation to be able to get the students to classes in an appropriate and convenient time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lundy, same question.
Transit is very important. I talk about transit through the lens of jobs, jobs, jobs. We've got to get people to work. That's the way to lift people up out of poverty. I think it's important for everyone to know the county has tried multiple times to get transit levies approved unsuccessfully. But what's important for all of you to know is the transportation question starts in Columbus. Ohio ranks towards the bottom when it comes to funding transit. Every 2 years, there is a transportation budget of $7.5 billion that's approved. The state provides $30 million for transportation in the state of Ohio. That's among 88 counties. So the improvement needs to start there. And I can't stress enough that it is important to get the Chamber of Commerce behind this issue, because the legislature wants their 100% voting record with the chamber, and that is the only way transit is going to be a priority in the state of Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Lundy. The next question, what is your vision for the future of Lorain County? What changes would you advocate and why, Mr. Lundy?
Well, I think that as a county we have to plan for the jobs of the future. You know, I can't stress enough the importance of supporting the LCC levy. They play a big role in what we do. You know, we're very proud of being a manufacturing county. We can make anything. We want people to bring their products here because we know that we can make them. We need to be making products in the renewable energy field, the wave of the future. We're already making progress there because of the battery-operated vehicles now coming to Ohio Assembly. That doesn't happen without confidence in the UAW and our labor force here. But we also need to compete for the jobs of the future in the chip industry as well, too. That's a very key part. The college is 10 years ahead of everybody else in educating students in that area. Intel was landed near Columbus, and the state of Ohio needs to continue to compete for those jobs.
Thank you. Mr. Riddell, the same question.
Yes, the vision I see for Lorain County in the coming years for our children and grandchildren, our neighbors and friends, is the third industrial revolution. The first being the steel industry that came in the late 1890s. The second one was the auto industry that came in the 50s. And we have a legacy of manufacturing that should make us a prime location for the manufacturing of high-tech equipment, electronic equipment, computers, telephones, all that sort of thing. But Silicon Valley is headed for Ohio. We have the water, we have the location. What we lack in Lorain County for taking advantage of that resurgence is the infrastructure necessary. The college, as he said, is way ahead of us. They're training workers for Intel in Columbus. We need them to be training for workers and here in Lorain County, our children, our neighbors' children. And the county government needs to take a hold of the infrastructure, the highways, the mass transportation, the utilities, to develop the land to be ready to go when somebody wants to locate in Lorain County.
Thank you. And Mr. Riddell, this will be your last question. Suicide prevention and accessible mental health treatment for all individuals in need are major health goals in the county. Please share an idea which could impact rising suicide rates and promote the mental well-being of your constituents, both youth and adults.
Well, I think the suicide issue is a sub-issue of the mental health issue. And mental health issue is a driver in the addiction issue. I think they're all related. And I think that what county commissioners need to do as being the budget authority is to continue to provide the leadership and the budget for folks like the Mars Board and the Nord Center and the people that have the training and the education and the ability to lead. But we need to provide the funding sufficient for them to be able to do their jobs. Secondly, we need to get going and take advantage of the study that was completed last year, and we need to progress on our jail, because we're currently lumping all of our people with mental health issues in with people that have hardened criminal records, and they needed to be treated in a much different manner, and you can't do that with a facility that's not designed to do that. So we need to make sure that our jail, for when people get into that kind of trouble, they're not going to be put in with folks that are going to give them other issues that they don't need.
Thank you. Mr. Lundy, same question.
This is an important issue here in Lorain County. I think it's important to first stress that the Board of Commissioners actually makes appointments to the Mental Health and Addiction Services Board. And those individuals, I always take the time to interview them to make sure they understand the importance. And a lot of the individuals that we do appoint to those boards have had, sadly, family members that have been impacted. We have to understand these are co-occurring issues. Normally, if you have an addiction issue, you probably have a mental health issue. If there's a mental health issue, there's probably an addiction issue taking place. And that is why we've really stressed this Crisis Stabilization Center that we are going to launch here in Lorain County, and the commissioners have allocated $4 million to support. We need to get people into treatment right away. We need to de-escalate the situation, get them on a path to recovery. At the jail, we're detoxing a lot of individuals there. A lot of our inmates are battling mental health issues, and we are having some early discussions about the need for a diversion center so that these folks can be helped, healed, and not go out and commit crimes again.
Thank you very much. You both will get 1 minute in closing remarks. Mr. Riddell, we'll start with you.
County government is in chaos. We at the top, we've had people let go within 1 year of being appointed without a chance to prove their worth. We have lawsuits by ex-employees. One was settled for $600,000. The other two are in the courts. We still have exit interviews that are showing that there's a pattern of interference and political agenda trying to get the business of the county done. I've never run for election, but I have a track record that says I know how to make a plan, I know how to understand the organizational structure, I know how to set the agendas for people, manage those people, and deliver results. I've served on the board of Lorain National Bank, which is now Northwest here, for 20-some years. I served on the college for 12 years. I've served in the Civil Service Department in Avon Lake under 2 mayors, 1 Republican, 1 Democrat. And I know how to balance the budget and do the hiring practices that have resulted in a better quality and more productive workforce. As I said, we're poised for that 3rd industrial revolution. Lorain County is not ready. I'd like to help that happen, and with your vote, I will do that.
Thank you. Mr. Lundy, your final remarks.
Well, thank you, Chip, for the opportunity to be here tonight and educate the voters about our candidacies. I was proud to be endorsed by the Chronicle-Telegram today, indicating that I bring stability to the board, I bring common sense to the board, and also compassion. It's been an honor to serve the county as a state representative and now as a county commissioner. And I pledged you to continue to protect our American jobs. We have to focus on made in America. I pledged you to not raise the county sales tax. I also cut the county sales tax so that you can put more money in your pocket. I'm the only candidate to make that pledge, by the way. And I pledged you to fully fund our law enforcement. We need to get the drug dealers off the streets and behind bars. We must always put the safety of our families first. And there's a reason why I use the phrase Lundy listens, because I listen to you. My mother told me you were born with 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use it. Use those ears. So I'm asking for your vote, November 8th. And you can learn more about me by going to my website, mattlundy.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That will wrap up for the Lorain County Commissioners. Thank you very much. That will wrap up that race for the Lorain County Commissioners. We'll take a brief break as we prepare for our last round with State Representative 53rd District.
Can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back to our final race of the evening, and that is the state representative for the 53rd District. The incumbent is Mr. Joe Miller, and the challenger is Mr. Marty Gallagher. Thank you both for coming, and we'll begin with opening statements. Mr. Gallagher, we'll begin with you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. I do appreciate it. This is the first time ever doing something like this, and for running for office. Give you a little bit of information about myself. I grew up in Northeast Ohio. I'm the middle of 13 kids. I'm married for almost 30 years. In December, I will be with my wife, Joanna. I have 4 adult children, all of which are in college. I do volunteer work. I'm a volunteer board member for Avon Lake Historical Society, Beach Park Railway Museum, and I was the former president of Avon Lake Athletic Boosters, where over a 5-year tenure, I raised $1.4 million. In doing that, I've also worked for many other organizations like CRS, and I've done volunteer work for Blessing House. For all that work, the city of Avon Lake made me Citizen of the Year last year, 2021. Out of 24,000 people, I was the one chosen. My professional career, I've been in my industry for 40 years. I've owned my own business for 35 years. I'm a wholesale distributor, property developer, and a manufacturer. I have 40 employees in one business and 40 in another. My legislative experience, I was on our national board, and I was appointed federal legislative chair, state legislative chair, PAC chairman, and I was dealing with the state of Ohio on many occasions for my industry.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, your opening statement?
Thank you, CHIP leadership, my fellow candidate, and our audience. It's been a long night, and I plan to be as brief as possible and respect your time. I'm currently representative for District 56 at the State House. I serve on the Primary Secondary Education Committee, the Higher Education Committee, the Agriculture Committee, and I am ranking on the Infrastructure and Rural Development Committee, so it's a busy time. But most importantly, I'm husband to Kelly Miller. My 3 boys, I used to say 2 boys, Joseph and Jordan, but we have a bulldog, and he's a handful. So during this time, you know, I was a teacher, a union officer, a councilman, currently your state representative, and I've spoken out against those who have used power to prevent my students, my fellow union members, my neighbors, my constituents from receiving a fair shot and an equal opportunity to access the fruits of these public institutions. and I'll always bring truth to power. And sometimes that can be painful. My experience has taught me that it's not the institutions of the public education, unions, political parties, or government that prevents fairness, but the immoral and unethical people who hold power and will use it to prevent others from having access to it. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now begin with our questions. And the first question will be for Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller, in your opinion, should the legislature support or punish sanctuary cities? Why or why not?
Thank you for the question. So the Ohio Constitution is very clear. We are a home rule state. That means that we have local control first and foremost. That is a local control decision. I think our efforts should be put into making sure that immigrants have a way of getting that path towards citizenship. I think that's where we need to put our efforts at. So with that, I will always support home rule and I always support local control.
Okay. Mr. Riddell? I'm sorry. Mr. Gallagher?
Yes, I oppose sanctuary cities for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's breaking the law. We have to follow the law. I'm a constitutional follower. I think that everybody should follow it in every state, every city, every municipality. The thing is if we want to introduce immigrants in this country, we need to do it legally, and we need to follow laws. If a city says that I'm going to break a law because we want to break a law, I am totally opposed to it. If we need to fix it, let's change it. Let's work on it and make sure that we come up with a mutual agreement on how it's done professionally, and it's also done to follow the law.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. The next question is, would you be willing to rewrite abortion legislation to restore rights and to allow medical providers to use their best medical judgment without risk of criminal charges? What would be your considerations?
Well, again, if the law is broken, we need to follow the law first. If we need to change it, we need to change it. We need to sit down at the table again and revisit the abortion laws in the state of Ohio. With the overturn of Roe versus Wade, we do need to sit down and collectively come up with something. I do believe that there are exceptions. I am a pro-life person. There are exceptions to pro-life, which would be rape, incest, and the life of the mother. And I believe that we need to revisit that and change it.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, the same question.
Thank you. So Roe was established. It was the law of the land, and we were following it. These are deeply personal family decisions, and they're between a woman and her doctor, and they will not be made any better by bringing government into it, whether it be medically or spiritually. So with this current situation we're in now, this is a major overreach by government into your lives, and I am completely against it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and for your last question, starting with you, Mr. Gallagher. Do you believe that human-caused climate change has played a significant role in increasing the temperature, intensity, and duration of heat waves throughout the country? If not, what do you believe accounts for the record-breaking temperature we experienced over the recent summer months in Ohio and throughout the nation?
I do believe that the climate change is happening from using fossil fuels and using carbon-emitting ingredients into the atmosphere. We need to closely monitor it. We need to work towards reducing our carbon footprint, but we can't just eliminate it overnight. Some of the rules that we've seen out there, such as in other states, where we're going to ban cars from being fossil fuel cars by 2035. Well, the problem is they just a week ago they said that we are going to, or a couple weeks ago they said that we want to tell people to not charge their cars over the weekend. So those type of issues have to be addressed, but carbon footprint needs to be reduced, and I would be an advocate to help working with both sides to get it reduced.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, same question.
Yes, thank you for the question. It's been quite a few years since I was in school, and even back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, we talked about climate change. It is real, and the most beautiful thing about this is we finally got both sides of the aisle to agree to it. So let's do something about it. And it can't be done overnight, and we're going to work on it in the State House, and I've been in support of bills that will get us on a long-term vision of going to carbon-free green energy production here in Ohio. And that means that we are going to be able to capture that natural gas that we have in Ohio and utilize that as the bridge between coal, oil, other fossil fuel energy production, and move towards a green portfolio, a complete carbon-free portfolio that will help with the climate change we're dealing with. So yes, I will support everything we need to do to get us there, but it's going to take time.
Thank you. Now for your closing statements. Mr. Miller, we'll start with you. 1 minute.
Thank you, Chip and the moderators. Appreciate being here again. Thank you for this opportunity. In closing, the last 4 years have been difficult but worth it. I've taken the fight to Columbus, and all on your behalf. I left my tenured job at Firelands as a teacher, my council position in Amherst, and most importantly, time with my family. But you deserve someone in Columbus who is experienced, who listens, and who cares. Empathy has been missing in politics, and down in the State House for sure with all these outrageous bills we've seen. And I'm not afraid to fight for what's right, especially when it comes to those I serve and those in need. I stood up to bullies from day one, and I will continue to do it. It comes with personal cost, but I will not be intimidated by a title or a name or those in power. I went against the Speaker of the House, who's now currently indicted. I fought against House Bill 70, which had state takeovers, and I wasn't just looking for a Band-Aid approach, I was looking for a full takeover repeal. Here in Lorraine City Schools, we've seen it. I've pushed back against unconstitutional legislation that will take away health care rights for women, family planning decisions for their families, and it looks like I'll have to stop there.
Mr. Gallagher, your closing remarks.
Yes. When I was a state legislative chairperson for my industry, I fought laws that were taking away rights of parents. For the past 15 years, I've been involved in it. I'm the state liaison between it. I've testified in front of the House of Representatives and lobbied in Columbus, so I'm very familiar with the process. So I do have experience. As a federal legislator, I was in the same position, but I got a bill to remove the TAN tax in my industry in the federal House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate with 111 sponsors. I'm a business owner. I'll treat it like a business. I've created 200 jobs over the last couple years, high-skilled paying jobs. As a property developer, I've brought businesses to the area. I've helped people form their own businesses, and I've given them guidance on how to run them, and I employ a well-diverse group of people, and I hire based on the person versus based on their qualifications in some cases, but I hire them mainly for them being a great person working for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, Mr. Gallagher, thank you both for joining us here tonight, and thank you to all the candidates who came out. One thing about CHIP is we believe that at no election should someone be running unopposed. Keep people awake, run for it, keep them thinking, keep them working for us. Thank you all for participating, and now we'd like to turn it over
Thank you.
to our president, Juanita Sequi.
Thank you. As we conclude tonight, I would like to thank Mike Fidel, Carmen Levis, and Alicia Pardon, our moderators. Give them a big hand of applause here. Joe Bach, our cameraman, and the rest of the crew back there. Dr. Graham, our superintendent of Lorraine City Schools. Melissa Cheers, who is the principal of Lorraine High School. Mary Mays, our executive director of operations. Our timekeeper, Pablo Senquiz, and my grandson, Nathan Pardon. And don't forget, I also want to thank Jessica Castro, our greeter. You guys met her earlier in the evening here. And of course, don't forget to vote on November 8th. Thank you all, and have a safe trip home.